A few years ago, I had a DVD Blu-ray player that broke. It still played DVDs and Blu-rays, but the button that you had to push for the tray to open up so you could put the disc in, it broke off. I don't know how it broke off, it broke off. And the power button on the actual player stopped working. So I found workarounds and it worked fine. As long as I could find something skinny enough to put in the slot where the button used to go, then I could get the tray to open. And as long as I had the remote control, well, I could get the power to come on. Why spend money if it actually still works? I mean, it's still meeting my needs, right? Before you judge me, think about things in your life that you may be keeping around that no longer function the way they were designed to function. Over time, when something breaks and we rig it to work because we don't want to be bothered to fix it or go buy a new thing, we just get used to the inconvenience of it. In part one, I talked to you about the ways that we experience boundary violations. And in this video, I'm talking about how sometimes we may not recognize the boundary violation because it's a dysfunction. We have found workarounds so that dysfunction, that inconvenience, we don't register it anymore. But in reality, those violations, that dysfunction does have an impact. That's what I'm talking about in this video. How do we behaviorally and emotionally respond whenever we experience a boundary violation? So, grab your favorite drink and pull up a chair and let's get started. Welcome. I am Dr. Tracy Dickens, a psychologist. If you've been here before, welcome back. And if you're new to my channel, I'm so glad that you found me. I want to be clear, I don't want to give emotions more power than they deserve. We want to recognize emotions as messengers, not guides. And what do I mean by that? A messenger is going to deliver information that I need so I can make a choice about what to do next. A guide is going to, guide me through a situation. I want to make that distinction because I feel like we're in a culture right now where we feel something, we feel the feels, and we just act on them. No, because the narrative, the story we're telling ourselves about the situation is flawed, biased, a little wonky, not wholly true. We have life experiences that impact how we experience our reality. And I know we do this in relationships because we work really hard to stay in relationships or keep people away from us. And so we tend to interpret things in a way that supports that end. Meaning, we could have somebody that's doing something toxic in a relationship, but we will justify it, tweak it, ignore it, deny it, all kinds of mental acrobats so we don't have to lose that sense of belonging, even though deep down we know something is off. Our emotions are just spilling out everywhere. So without further ado, let's talk about emotional and behavioral responses to boundary violations. If you find yourself avoiding someone or a situation, so this can look like your best friend calls yet again about a breakup that she's just had with someone that you knew was toxic, and she's crying and she's emotional and she wants to talk to you again, and you avoid her phone call and you don't go to your favorite hangouts because you don't want to run the risk of running into her. Avoiding. It's a huge sign that you've experienced a violation. Complaining. When you find yourself complaining about a person or a situation, this can be you walk around the office complaining about the coworker who always leaves their mug in the sink. Ugh, how annoying. That brings me to the next one. Gossiping. The intention behind gossip is to be hurtful to the person that you're talking about behind their back without their permission. Another example is cutting people off or canceling, as we do so much in our culture. And this often happens when you just get fed up. You no longer believe the person is capable or willing to change. And you're just like, you know what? Forget it. I'm walking away. I'm never talking to you again. This often occurs with those macroaggressions when someone just gets so fed up, they've tried time and time again to set a boundary and they don't hold to their boundary. And so eventually they get to the point where they have a huge escalation, a huge blow up, and they're like, you know what? I'm never talking to this person again. Nedra Tawwab said that resentment is a cocktail of disappointment, fear, and anger. So when you find yourself feeling that mixture of feelings, more than likely that's resentment. I recognize resentment in my own life, but it was due to not respecting my personal boundaries. I'd find myself doing things that I really love to do, that I'm passionate about, but in the doing them, I felt resentful. I was upset that I was doing what I was doing, even though it was great, because I wanted to be somewhere else or doing nothing, and I wasn't able to do that. And I got really mad about it. I got really, really angry and disappointed, but really that was all about me not respecting my time boundaries. And so I had to make some changes, and I did. The next one is anger. And anger is always going to show up when something that you value is being threatened or it is in harm's way. And anger always shows up with other emotions. So when you feel angry, pay attention, listen, lean in, identify the other emotions that show up with it, and get curious about what you're really upset about. I actually did a whole series on anger, and I will link that in the description below. The last two, frustration and burnout. We get frustrated when we try and set a boundary. We really try and hold on to the relationship, and the other person just won't respect the boundary. They won't change. They just won't do it. The goal that we had in mind, the needs that we needed to have addressed, it's not happening. It's just not happening, no matter what you do or how you do it. And oftentimes I found when we're frustrated, we have set the boundary and then we don't hold ourselves to the boundary. Or we've kind of sort of told the person what we need. We haven't really fully expressed it. In the next video, we're gonna talk about what gets in the way of us setting boundaries, and then we will get to how do we do it more effectively. But until then, notice, if you're feeling frustrated, that's an alarm telling you, ding, 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 something's off here. And the final one is burnout. When you just feel like you got nothing else to give. You're just empty. You're beyond empty. You're running on gas fumes. Your water pitcher has nothing to pour into a glass. You're burned out. So if you're feeling burned out by relationship, burned out by work, burned out by your family, you just got nothing else to offer, that is a huge sign that there has been a boundary violation. Unfortunately, most of us would rather suffer through the boundary violation than deal with being misperceived or called selfish or mean or unchristian. Maybe right now you're feeling a little uneasy because you're recognizing some of these emotions and behaviors in your life. You have awareness, and awareness is good. I want you to remember this quote: healthy relationships don't feel threatening. Loving relationships don't feel cruel. Secure relationships don't feel as if everything could implode if you dared to draw a boundary. I want you to let that quote sink in. What you have requires you to put more effort into it to get it to work. If it's a healthy relationship, the other person will understand that you're doing what's best for both of you to have health and security in the relationship. And if they're not, that should be a red flag. So write down below what resonated with you, push the like, thumbs up, and make sure that you subscribe so you can see the next video. And until next time, choose joy.